I think we can all agree that Darth Vader is the main man of Star Wars, so of course there's going to be plenty of action figures they've released of him, and the 14 Darth Vader action figures I'm going to be covering in this video don't even come close to all the Darth Vaders they've released. This is just kind of a general idea of the evolution of Darth Vader action figures, kind of giving you a bit of an idea about how they've evolved over time. I have plenty other Darth Vader action figures I did exclude from this list because there's one that's very similar, or it's just a repaint, something along those lines. So I just really wanted to kind of give you an idea about all the various Darth Vader action figures they have made. These are the first 7 out of the 14, well actually 15, because I see I kind of forgot one off to the side, but oh well. So, what we've got here, from start to finish, is I believe, this is the Saga Collection Darth Vader, and this is the original 1978 vintage Darth Vader. So we're going to go from left to right, and briefly talk about each Darth Vader figure as we build up to the modern day. First up is the good old 1978 Darth Vader, and yeah, it looks really cool because it's very retro looking, and it's it's got something about it. Of course, mine is missing the cape, and the tip of the lightsaber has broken off, but it's still a really cool figure. Honestly, if you're a Star Wars collector, I'd say try to get the vintage Darth Vader, because it's just so cool to have the main man of Star Wars in its original incarnation. It's really cool. Now, I'm pretty sure this is probably not the original 1978 one. This is probably like maybe 1983 or so, because they use the same Darth Vader figure for all 3 movies, maybe with some slight variations. I'm not a huge vintage collector, so if any of you do have a little more knowledge on that, please let me know. That'd be really interesting to know. But yeah, this is where it all started, right here. And you'll see as we come full circle, we really haven't gotten that far. So, that is the original 1970s, 1980s Darth Vader. And then, of course, after the original 3 Star Wars movies, there was a huge hiatus with Star Wars. Nothing happened. And then, in the mid to late 1990s, Power of the Force was brought back to coincide with the special editions and the theatrical re-releases of Star Wars. And so came new action figures, and this is or at least one of the many different versions of the Power of the Force Darth Vader. There have been so many. This is the only one that I have. And it's interesting, needless to say. You can see looking at his arm, this guy is buff. I mean, dang, look at that bicep, man. He's been doing his reps, man. Darth Vader, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, that's the whole thing with the Power of the Force line. They were all really freaking buff for some reason. Because I guess in the 90s, there was the whole Batman the Animated Series and the whole Spider-Man animated series and all these other superhero lines, and Kenner really wanted to push the whole big, beefy superhero action figure motif with their Star Wars figures, which, sure, I guess, go ahead. It's your decision. They're kind of dumb figures, but something about them. They just got this quirky charm to them. So, what we've got on the right, I'll just shift over because it really isn't much of a jump, is, I believe, a later Power of the Force Darth Vader, where they decided, you know what? This whole beef stuff is kind of stupid. So they got rid of it, and they added a lot more articulation. He has elbow swivels now, and I believe wrist swivels, don't quote me on that. As you can see, these figures are kind of dusty. It's been some time since I messed with them. This is not the original Power of the Force release. This is a comic pack released many years later, where he's in a more Marvel Comics deco, and it's pretty good. It's certainly a serviceable Darth Vader, but he will be stuck in that pose forever, where he's just kind of always, monkey arms, I guess. I mean, there really isn't much else to say. So let's move on to the next Darth Vader, and we'll see how it goes from there. Now, I feel kind of awful. I can't keep track of all the Darth Vaders that have been released in the various lines. This is A New Hope-inspired Darth Vader, because you can see with the red eyes and the cloth that's kind of going over his chest panel. I believe this might have been Power of the Jedi. Looking at the date stamp, I believe it said 2000 or 2001. And it's a pretty good figure. It kind of goes back to the limited articulation. Really doesn't have much to it. But it's serviceable. It's nice. Certainly, this is probably one of the better sculpts. Probably the best sculpt we've seen so far out of these 4 we've looked at. And it's pretty nice. Now, moving over, this is also in early 2000s. This is the, what is it? The Emperor's Wrath version of Darth Vader, where he's all, like, electrified and all that. And I believe this was released in the Saga Collection, even though I believe the mold originates from something prior. And it's pretty good. As you can see, they almost kind of went back to the beefier figure again, because Darth Vader, this one's got a lot more chunk. He's shorter than a lot of the others. Not really sure how I feel about the overall look of it, but it's got a nice sculpt, I do have to say. And you can see the skull underneath the mask. It's very hard to tell, but you can see it, and I just think it's really cool. Now let's get on to the mid-2000s figures. Before I talk about the Revenge of the Sith Vader, I just want to mention the Vader on the right, the Saga Collection Vader, is the very first Darth Vader action figure I got. I believe that is the Darth Vader figure that I purchased, and needless to say, it's still one of my favorites, but it's far from great. I mean, it does have a lot of problems. It's not perfect at all, but the Darth Vader action figure from Revenge of the Sith is still one of the nicer looking Darth Vaders. The helmet's very odd looking, though, but he does have an action gimmick where you squeeze his legs and his lightsaber arm swooshes, and it's all cool and all that. But this is where they really started to push the cloth capes. I really didn't make much of a mention of the cloth capes on the Marvel Comics and the A New Hope one, because I believe those might have been added later. But the cloth really does look nice on this, and I like the look of the little chain. And I was kind of surprised that it's held up this long, because, you know, it seems like a material that would degrade over time. But as you can see on the one on the right, it stayed up. And the one on the right, I do have to make a mention of, is one of the more articulated Darth Vaders. It's really, this is where they really started to push for articulation. He's got knee joints, he's got swivel elbows, even though they're behind his back right now. So it looks like he doesn't have arms, but he does. Swivel shoulders, he's got a swivel head. Most of them, I think all of them have a swivel head. But it's really cool that Hasbro mid-2000s really started to push for articulation a little more. And then in the second era, that I will be showing off right after these, it really gets crazy. So let's take all these out and replace them with the other 7. Before I do that, I just want to show them off one more time. This is the one I left out because I kind of forgot, because it's very different. This is the Vintage Original Trilogy Collection mold, and I figured I'd show it off a little more in person, because this is where articulation really steps up. This is the weird, like, white Darth Vader, which, geez, that cloth is really dirty. But, I mean, they really push for more articulation, like he's got knees, and he's got hinge outwards at the arms, which is real cool. And I believe he has a, yeah, that's very rare to see with even modern Darth Vaders, the hinged neck, where you can actually look up. That's really cool. So, that is the VOTC Darth Vader. Now let's look at pretty much most of the rest. So, this is some lot we've got here. Yeah, these are certainly pretty much, if you put all my favorite Darth Vaders in a room, this is what it's going to look like. We got some really cool figures here. Well, you've got some cool figures here. This one is, we'll talk about that one. He's kind of off screen, so it's still a bit of a surprise. So yeah, this is pretty much from the 30th Anniversary Collection to kind of modern day Black Series, Rebels, all that. So let's go from left to right once again and just kind of show off the evolution. Now granted, on the one on the left I am sort of cheating, but I just really wanted to highlight that because I feel like that is certainly when Hasbro is stepping up their game with not only articulation but also detail. So let's head over there and see what's going on. This one goes out to my main man, Mad Waba. Yeah, I know he likes this figure a lot. This is probably like one of his favorite figures of all time. The Force Unleashed Battle Damaged Darth Vader. I've really been struggling to say The Force Unleashed without saying The Force Awakens. It's very confusing. But yeah, this thing's really cool. As you can see, Hasbro really did step it up with the detail. Like, they even tore the cape. He's got removable armor pieces, which I did not include those with him right now, because they're kind of on the shelf, and it would be kind of difficult to get them off. But yeah, they really stepped up their game. It's impressive, very impressive. That this, I would feel like, is the beginning of the era of good, very, very good Darth Vader figures. All of these that I'm going to show you are immensely good, besides one of them. So, yeah, this is the 30th Anniversary Collection Battle Damaged Vader. It's very impressive. Now let's go on to probably the golden era of Star Wars action figure collecting, the vintage collection. OTVC, OTVC, how I love thee. Yeah, what we've got here is the Return of the Jedi Darth Vader and the A New Hope Darth Vader. The Return of the Jedi Vader was released in the first wave, and the A New Hope of Vader was released pretty late in the line. I do want to show this off, though. The helmet is removable in multiple pieces, and I do really like this. However, I feel like it doesn't really do any favors for the helmet itself. I feel like the helmet doesn't really look that good. But underneath the helmet, that is a very good likeness to Sebastian Shaw. I really like it. And it still looks pretty decent with the helmet, and it stays on moderately. Now, I really do want to make a mention of the articulation on these two because it is very similar. They've both got a swiveled head, ball-hinged shoulders, ball-hinged elbows, swivel wrists, swivel hips, swivel waist, ball-hinged knees, and ball-hinged ankles. This is pretty much as premium as articulation gets. There's only one figure on this list that trumps them all. Well, sort of trumps them. Yeah, these are really good. Out of these two, I would say my favorite is by far the A New Hope one. But the A New Hope of Vader is only probably, I'd say, my third favorite Darth Vader figure. There's still two others that I really prefer over it. So, those are the vintage collection ones. Now let's get on to movie heroes. Okay, I did forget to mention there was another vintage collection Darth Vader. It was another Emperor's Wrath Darth Vader. I do have that, but I did exclude it from the list because the one you can see on the right is pretty much a straight-up repaint of that figure with some minor tweaks, so I decided to leave it out. This is the Movie Heroes Light-Up Lightsaber Darth Vader, and I just want to show it off real quickly. You can barely see it, but that lightsaber is really nice. Here, let me turn off the lights just because I really want you to see how awesome this lightsaber looks. It's very dark. Boom. Look at that. That is amazing. Look how much that lights up. This is a very gimmicky action figure. However, I do feel like this light-up gimmick completely makes up for some of its lack of articulation. Let me get the lights back on. So yeah, like I was saying, this figure does lack in articulation a little bit. He only has swivel shoulders, and his right arm is completely pretty much crippled due to the gimmick. But I don't care. This figure looks fantastic. It's one of my favorite Darth Vaders. I absolutely love it. I love the detail, I love the look. The articulation is pretty serviceable. I mean, he still has ball-hinged elbows and knees. And it's just real nice. If you weren't able to get this thing, it's a bit of a shame. However, I would be very careful with the light-up gimmick because Hasbro, as stupid as they are, decided to just completely forget about the whole interchangeable batteries thing. Like, maybe if you want to use this thing, like, actively in play, if you're a kid, when the batteries go out, the batteries go out. To replace them, you pretty much have to cut open the figure, which is awful, but that's what Hasbro decided to do. Now let's move on to the Black Series. We're almost done here, guys. We're almost done. Black Series brought me my favorite Darth Vader action figure, and a lot of people would say that's the one on the right, but for me, it's the one on the left. That is the Empire Strikes Back, sort of like, we would be delighted if you would join us, Darth Vader. He comes with the whole blast effect and Han Solo's blaster. It's a really cool figure. I love the look of it. I love the detail. The helmet sculpt, I feel like it's perfect. And that helmet is, I believe, a repaint of the Emperor's Wrath Darth Vader from the Vintage Collection. Don't quote me on that, but it just looks so perfect. And the one on the right is the most articulated Darth Vader action figure I believe we've gotten ever. Of course, it's trumped by the 6-inch Black Series, which I'm not showing here because this is just a 3 3/4-inch Black Series. 3 3/4-inch Star Wars Darth Vader Evolution. But yeah, he has ball-hinged hips, and I believe he has rocker ankles. Don't quote me on that. I don't necessarily recall, but it's an amazing figure. It really does capture the look of Darth Vader as he did briefly appear in Revenge of the Sith. It's just a really cool figure, and you can see the helmet design difference where the dome is a lot huger on the... Huger, is that a word? Let me know. It's a lot bigger. The dome is a lot bigger on the Revenge of the Sith one as it is on the Empire Strikes Back one. And the helmet is far more symmetrical and kind of smaller looking because they made it out of like a 3D scan, I believe. But yeah, as you can see there, that's real solid. Now, I'm not even going to do a fancy-dancy transition. This is the last one. I believe this is the most recent Darth Vader we have gotten. The Star Wars Rebels Darth Vader. Now, this kind of, We have to end on a tragic note, unfortunately, because it seems like the route that Hasbro is going is indeed 5 points of articulation, 3 3/4 inch. Now, recently, Hasbro has released another Black Series Darth Vader, and to my complete dismay, it is not a new figure, but a re-release of freaking this. My very first Darth Vader action figure. They re-released this in the Black Series. And this is the most recent Darth Vader that we've got. 5 points of articulation. Details decent. I mean, it's an animated style. It's really based off of Ralph McQuarrie. I was thinking about showing off the Ralph McQuarrie Vader, but I think it's a little too different and really doesn't show the evolution of Darth Vader action figures as a character. That's more of a one-off. Yeah. It's not bad. For some reason, it has a hook on its left leg, like you're supposed to hook on the lightsaber, even though I don't see where that's even possible. So if anyone knows about that at all, please let me know. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That has been an evolution of Darth Vader as an action figure plastic form. What do you guys think? What's your favorite Darth Vader action figure? Me personally, I'm still sticking to my homeboy, the Empire Strikes Back Black Series. There have been a lot. Jeez. I showed about 20. I think I showed 15, and there are plenty more. I didn't show off the Holiday Red Darth Vader. I didn't show off the Silver Darth Vader. I didn't show off the Vintage Collection, Emperor's Wrath Darth Vader. So many Darth Vaders I did not show off, because there are so many. But I hope this gave you a good idea of the evolution of the character in action figure form. Really wanted to make a video today, and I just felt like this would be very interesting to my audience. So guys, that's pretty much it. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe. Check out my Facebook page if you have a chance. Have a good day, guys. May the Force be with you. Bye.